And we are here with the October monthly weather roundup brought to you by Jennifer Ansbach Coaching. I am meteorologist Joe Martucci. Joined with me, my weather dad, Dave Robinson. We are sitting here on October 30th. I say that for two reasons. One, because our rainfall data isn't going to be 100% accurate when we're talking about October. But two, it's Mischief Night. You know, Mischief Night's only a New Jersey thing. Are you aware of this?
I grew up in New Jersey, so I'm well aware of Mischief Night.
Right. Did you used to call it Cabbage Night too? Because isn't that like a
Yes,
Bergen County? Yes. I didn't know that till older, till I got
Cabbage Night was another term. Mischief Night and Cabbage. Boy, I haven't thought about that in a long time. I haven't gone out there and raised a ruckus. No,
I was gonna say, when was the last time a young Dave Robinson went out throwing cabbages around in Bergen County?
never.
Oh,
Like never.
okay. Yeah, I think I was like probably 10 years ago, I was at Weatherworks where I used to work, and we were talking about just different ways of saying things. And I said, "Oh, it's Mischief Night." And literally the guy next to me who was from Ohio said, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "I never heard of that." So now every year, including today, I text him, I say Happy Mischief Night to you. And now he lives back in Ohio, and he's back there. But yeah, one of the many things that make New Jersey unique.
You got it.
Yeah. All right. Well, we definitely have one big thing to talk about in October, and that's the nor'easter for sure. It is interesting in the sense that this was, I would say, a fairly big deal if you lived in a beach town. If you could
Oh
see the
yeah.
ocean or the bay at some point in your town, this was a pretty big deal. If you didn't, not as big of a deal. In fact, our friend Nick Stefano in Sussex County, he texted me, saying, "Oh man, I wish I got more to storm." He only had a half inch of rain or something like that where he was in Sussex County. But yeah, I mean, I'll rattle off a couple of. I mean, there's a lot of stats here with this. I'll rattle off a couple of them. The high tide on that Sunday or Monday, depending on where you were, was in the top 10 highest for nearly everywhere. And it was in the top three in a few places. Waretown on the Barnegat Bay, highest on record. Caveat though, records don't go back that far, but still reach major flood stage. And then most of Atlantic and Cape May County saw three consecutive high tides in moderate flood stage. And when you get to moderate, that's where it's actually tough to drive around these towns here. Also, Atlantic City Marina broke a daily rainfall record, which stood since 1927. So you had the rain, you had the tidal flooding, and the beach erosion too. I'll get to the beach erosion a little bit later, but just what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a coastal event.
Yeah,
You go much west of the Parkway, and you had under a half an inch of rain. You had a little bit of wind. It was kind of a non-event. But it, the Garden State Parkway East, I
east.
mean, it was a notable event. The top 10, I'd say top 10 of this century. Because I
Well,
think the Waretown only went back to the part of this century, if memory serves
yeah,
me
and
correct.
that's why I say it doesn't have a long
Yeah,
period record.
yeah, but certainly in terms of the hit it put on the coast, what worries me the most about that storm is the cumulative effect of Erin back in August and this storm, and they've left the beach areas defenseless as we go into the winter season. That
Yeah.
worries me. The other thing about this storm, which is a mini me version of the 62 nor'easter. But it
Yes.
was the
Mini me.
fact the storm stalled off the coast. And you already mentioned it, the repetitive high tides. And in a sense, it was really the back bay storm rather than the beachfront storm, except where there was significant erosion
Yeah.
because you couldn't empty the water out of those bays before the next high tide came in. So it became that additive or cumulative effect and Waretown perfectly illustrated that
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
severe, with the, borderline severe flooding.
Yeah, and I don't know if you even know the answer to this, but that Waretown gauge, that always is high in a storm and it lasts for a while. Do you know much about that gauge? Like, meaning, nah, okay. I didn't know if it had to do with the exact location, or is it just a
I,
Barnegat Bay is always like that? Because I look at some other Barnegat Bay sensors, and don't get me wrong, Barnegat Bay does hold that water for longer. But Waretown seems to really hold on to that.
Yeah, no, I don't know that. And the question I would raise, and I don't know the answer, there was 3, 4 inches of rain in some areas on the coast, so you could have had some freshwater flooding coming in, but I don't know how close that gauge is to a river outlet, a river terminus. So
Yeah, it's on a tributary, a little Barnegat Bay tributary, but no, there's no river. I'm just
I
looking at
didn't
the map
think
right now. Yeah,
I
you have a
didn't
little
think
development
anything.
with the lagoons, but nothing. Yeah.
No, I didn't think there was anything there. So, each gauge has its own personality, if you will, and we should know that looking up and down the coast.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
that's why you and I both look at multiple gauges. And this was really from Barnegat Bay south. To the north, um, you know, waves are high tide, it was such, but it was more northeasterly winds. And in those cases, Long Island protects the northern coast of Jersey
Yeah.
from the worst of the flooding. It wasn't pulling it from the east, which would go into Raritan Bay, or the southeast, which would pose a problem for northern Barnegat Bay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
the wind direction, we talk about this with sea breezes in the summer. We can talk about it in the winter with the rain snow line.
Hmm.
People really should be aware, and you make them aware of just, not a 180-degree change in wind direction. Sometimes just a 20, 40,
Yep.
45-degree change in wind direction can make a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And southerly winds is more of a parallel wind in Seaside Heights, and it's a straight onshore wind
Yeah.
in Atlantic City. We those are the things. And the interesting, speaking of wind, we in Cape May County dodged one in a way because their winds on Monday morning were offshore because of or excuse me, from the northwest. So they were blowing, on,
Offshore.
yeah, they were blowing offshore. Sorry, I got tripped up. But because of that low pressure and the latitude of how high that low pressure was, played a role because if that low pressure system was maybe 50 miles further south and those winds were more northeast and northwest, that would have been major flood stage and that would have been pretty,
Yeah.
significant flooding. Don't get me wrong, moderate flood stage is pretty good, but water comes in, water comes out. It is a problem during that time. Major flood stage is when you're talking about like legitimate property damage to places. So
Structural damage.
yeah,
Yeah.
structural
Yeah.
right. So they did dodge one there a little
Yeah.
bit. Yeah,
Let me
you
give you
want
a
to say
few
something?
more. I can give you a few more numbers
Yeah, do it.
for that storm.
Sure.
From our weather network, we had 59-mile-an-hour gusts at Harvey Cedars out on LBI and Little Egg Harbor Township. On the 12th, Little Egg Harbor Township went up to 57 on the 13th. AC Marina was 56 both days. So you can see we had a handful of our station, all coastal, Seagirt, Seaside Heights, Harvey Cedars, Atlantic City Marina, Little Egg Harbor Township, all gusted over 50 miles an hour during that event. And a
Yeah.
few others inland, a little more inland. Township, for instance, up in Monmouth County, hit 42. And then even the next day, to show you how long this persisted,
Yeah.
Little Egg Harbor Township was up to 44, and Harvey Cedars and AC Marina 42. So that was, and rainfall. Oh, let me do you that,
Yeah.
give you that one. Brick Township, 4.08 inches of rain. That's a month's worth of rain
Yeah. Yeah.
from that event over about a 48-hour period. Tom's River, 382. Beechwood in Ocean County, 368. Stafford Township, two of our gauges there, 360, 3.62. So, you see, Ocean County coastal areas took the brunt of the heaviest rain.
Yeah. Yeah. Ocean County was probably the out of any county, the most
Yeah.
significantly impacted from this.
Yep. So,
Also, yeah, quite the storm. Let me ask you, where do you think this goes on the top 10 list for you? Because you're looking statewide, so it's
I
not just a
think this
coastal thing.
I think this has a chance of making the top 10. It's not been that active a year, thank goodness. Knock on wood.
Yes,
We've
thank
still
goodness.
got 2 months to go. But yeah, I think this was notable for more of the flooding, the
Yeah,
persistence of the flooding and
yeah,
all. The wind, there was minimal damage. The rain, minimal flooding.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's not in the top 5. It might
Right.
sneak into the top 10. I
Okay.
gotta
All right.
appease you and the coastal folks somewhat,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
I'll be breathing down your neck if it's not in the top 10. Um, so and let's just talk about the erosion just to circle back on that.
Yeah.
We're in mid-October, we're just or that storm was in mid-October, just getting into nor'easter season. And we had Aaron. The DEP released their report of the erosion. um, you know, Thankfully, they're saying that a lot of this erosion and the sand that came away will get put back onto the shoreline with time. But I mean, you've seen the photos. I mean, Avalon cliffs of sand,
Yeah.
Strathmere in Cape May County, they have probably the worst out of anybody. North Wildwood's always a hot spot, but it's not even just the hot spots. It's more than that that's still seeing this erosion, right? And it's just not good as we're going in. We're just getting into it. We're just getting into it.
Well, that's the concern. Now, further north, I was at Belmar on this past Saturday, and they've got the snow fences up, if you will,
Yeah,
and they have one closer to the boardwalk, and they have one out about another 50, 75 feet, and a little mound, a mini dune along that one. But
right.
you can see they're putting in two levels of defense, but there's quite a bit of beach beyond that. That area did not get hit nearly as hard. But you can see they're thinking about this. They're working on defense mechanisms for the coming season. Now, will we have a lot of coastal storms? We didn't last winter. It was a
No.
La Nina winter. And this
Yeah.
winter looks like we're going to start off as a mild La Nina winter, which
Okay.
would say there'd be fewer coastal storms, a
Right.
storm track up through the Great Lakes like we saw last year. Now, will this
Yeah.
La Nina behave like traditionally La Ninas behave? Everyone's a little different.
Yeah.
So
There's
we'll
other
see.
factors at play,
Yeah,
than just La
we'll
Nina.
see.
Yeah. Just with the major beach erosion, I have a list here. So there's six or seven, depending on how you look at it, places. Two of them are in Long Beach Township and LBI, Brant Beach and Holgate. Bayhead, major erosion. Ocean City, major erosion. Beach Haven and LBI, major erosion. And then Strathmere, like I said, and Avalon, both of which are in Cape May County. They were the six that had major erosion, and another 8 towns were in moderate. So 67 were minor, and that's good. That most were still in minor, but there's places that are already chewed up. And again, it's going to be November.
Yep.
Yeah. And we have also too, something we're looking at, right? We're trying to see what kind of beach replenishment we can get. We don't have any money for beach replenishment next year. We're going to hope that changes as we go into 2026 for sure. But yeah, quite the storm, especially with Aaron on its heels. And yeah. All right. We're going to take a brief break. We'll come to you on the other side. We're going to talk about precipitation in October. We'll talk about temperatures. And as I found out, I gave you a little homework assignment. The biggest snows in New Jersey's November history. We'll wrap up with that one here on the monthly Weather Roundup. From college essays to graduate statements to career transitions, Jennifer Ansbach Coaching helps every learner take the next step with confidence. Whether you're a high school senior preparing for college, a graduate school applicant, or returning to school after time away, your words can open doors. Write, revise, rise. Visit JenniferAnsbach.com to get started. That's Jennifer, ANSBACH.com. And we are back with the October monthly weather roundup brought to you by Jennifer Ansbach Coaching, helping students and adult learners write, revise, and rise. Learn more at JenniferAnsbach.com. Excuse me. Oh my gosh, I'm getting choked up. Too much October. It's too much Halloween candy. I don't know. All right, getting back to the month of October, let's take a look at temperatures. It was definitely warm to start. And it kind of, you get this every fall. At least I feel like there's this every fall. It's like this fake warmth. Like, like it's not supposed to be this warm now. And then you see this like cold front pass through and like, that's the one that's ending summer. And that's exactly what we had. I think probably that cold front passed on the 7th or the 8th.
Yeah.
I think it was the 8th. And I remember being outside and I'm like, it's going to feel a lot different like 12 hours from now. Goodbye to summer. So take it away. I know that's what we had here in the month of
No,
October.
that's you nailed it. I mean, that's exactly it. And trusting the forecast,
Yes.
you knew that would likely be it. Now we've snuck in some 70s and even 80 in early November, which is very unusual. And I'm not saying that's going to happen this year. We know the western half of the country is going to be very warm for the next week or two. Not
Yes.
here, but still leaves us a little time in November. Yeah, it was unlike September, which started cool and ended warm. This one began warm and ended cooler, but not that much cooler compared to normal.
Yeah.
We got our first freeze up in Walpack on the let's see here. I think it was the I got so many pieces of paper as I prepare to write the report. It was on the 2nd of October, was the first freeze in New Jersey in our network. But as we speak, we're going to finish October. We have 69 stations in our weather network. And as of the end of October, 13 of them have yet to fall below 40 degrees for
Wow.
the coldest low
Wow.
of the
Yeah. Yeah.
season.
Yeah. Yeah.
But 21 of the stations have gone below freezing. So we have this dichotomy across the state. And as everyone who listens to these podcasts know and follows Joe, it's the coastal areas that are
Yes.
last to go below freezing. And so, we've had, Atlantic City Marina hasn't gone below 45 degrees. Harvey Cedars below 44. That's what we're talking about with that added warmth of fall in coastal New Jersey, extending the growing season
Yeah.
clearly into November, whereas it's been over for a month up in the valleys of Northwest New Jersey.
Sure. Yeah, and the National Weather Service put out frost advisories. Even this week, we just haven't gotten down to that freeze of 32 here. And kind of just looking, at records, we were talking about this during the break. It's not it's not really rare to go throughout October and not have a freeze. And even some of these inland spots, like in the Pinelands, really it starts to become rare if it's like, and this is for inland, not the immediate coast, but inland, like November 10th, that's when it's like, okay, this is something that's unusual. But the coast, and you said it too, right? There was one year where AC Marina, it wasn't until January that we had our first freeze.
Yeah, I mean that's the case. Now, the Pinelands, the Weather Service was a little wrong the other day when they said, well, the Pinelands haven't have the growing season ending. It has gotten down to I'm trying to look at some of the Pineland stations. Vineland has gone below freezing. Mullica Township's gone below freezing. Berkeley Township, which is Miller Air Park up in
Yep.
Ocean County, has gone below freezing. So there have been some freezes in the coldest recesses of the Pinelands
Yeah.
already, but not hard freezes, 30, 32 degrees. Uh,
Yeah.
you have to go into those deeper valleys in Northwest Jersey where Walpack has been as cold as 21 degrees
Hmm.
back on the 27th, just recently. So it's coming, folks, but it just takes a while to come. So you keep your begonias looking
That's
nice
right.
on
Yeah.
LBI uh,
Yeah.
and AC. So
Yeah.
enjoy, revel in that because we know spring takes a bit longer to
Mhm.
arrive
That's
along the
right.
coast. You don't see your forsythia the last week of March.
No, and I've been to many a beach towns in early May where it's gray and cloudy and 55, and you're like, what is this?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
not our
that's the
time.
beauty of Jersey. We may be a small state, but what a variety we
That's
have.
right.
I
It
should
makes it
add the urban environments haven't gone below freezing yet, too. They tend to be
95 corridor
later portion. If you're near water or I sound like Jersey in water,
water.
in an urban area, it
Yeah.
takes a little longer for that first freeze to come.
Are you a water ice guy or an Italian ice guy?
Oh, Italian ice.
Okay.
I don't
Yeah.
even know what water ice is except
Uh,
something you skate on.
yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, you got it. We go to LBI, those might be fighting words if you say Italian ice instead of water ice. Depends on where you're at. All right, let's go to precipitation here. So we are again recording this October 30th, and I'm looking outside, and it is still coming down pretty good where I am here in Monmouth County. So we're not going to have a complete accurate gauge, but we have an idea of where we're at. And we do have differences depending on where you are in the state.
Yeah, good point. Most of the states going to come in below normal. I think the coastal areas, particularly coastal Ocean County, is might come in at about normal, and that's about 4 inches for the month. But everybody else, up until today's storm, the state was averaging 2 inches for the month, which is less than 50% of normal. I think we'll probably round things out at about an inch today.
Mm.
Few areas have done better than that already, which is going to push us up closer to normal. And of course, anything surpasses last October when the whole state averaged 2/100ths of an inch of rain. That's
Yeah.
what fell out your window in 5 minutes this morning.
Right. Right.
It was an amazing, the driest month of any month on record in New Jersey.
By a
But
lot, by the way.
by over a quarter of an inch.
Yeah.
But this, if it's below normal statewide, and I'm almost sure it's going to be below normal statewide, that makes 12 of the last 14 months with below normal precipitation in New Jersey.
Mm.
So it's no surprise that the bulk of the state right now on the drought monitor for the US drought monitor is considered abnormally dry or moderate drought, or even a little worse than that up in an area in the highlands over to northwest Jersey.
Yeah.
So we were kind of starving for moisture. What that sucking sound you heard this morning was the ground gratefully accepting that moisture because we really could use it. The reservoirs are going in the wrong direction when they should be bottoming out after summer use of water, and they're going down. Streams are down, groundwater's down. We could use a few soakers. This isn't going to, this will alleviate fire danger, for instance, but
Yeah.
it's not going to alleviate our dry weather concerns. And since we last talked, the state went statewide into a drought watch, and that's according to the Department of Environmental Protection.
Yeah, there's a difference, right? The NJDP, that's more of the policy, let's say, and then the US drought monitor is more of the research, science. I don't know. How do you want to
Well,
characterize?
no, it's more New Jersey DEP is mostly water resources, groundwater pumping in your wells, the reservoirs filling or not, and a little bit with water quality when things go low with passing flows and all. The U.S. Drought Monitor is a quicker responding thing, and it can be soil moisture for agricultural purposes, fire danger. It's more than just pure water resources to get drinking water to you, for instance.
Right.
So they complement each other nicely. There's usually a lag in the in the water resources and a quicker response both in and out of dry conditions
Yeah.
with the drought monitor.
Now, is it fair to say that we're just in a multi-year dry stretch?
This
I mean,
was a discussion when we had that drought busting rains in May. We called
yeah.
it drought busting.
Yeah.
But at the time, I remember saying to folks, I don't know if this is just a respite and a continual dry period like we had from 1998 to 2002. This was a mini version of it right now. But I don't know, 2 years from now, we could be talking about how we've we've managed, but we've just never regained the groundwater, for instance, in
Yeah.
South Jersey. It's for the last 2 years, it's been low.
Yeah.
One rain isn't going to solve it. It's going to take months of an average or above average rain to solve that. So every indicator is a little different. So I would say, in a sense, we've been in a 14-month, maybe even a little more than that in South Jersey, 14-month period of generally drier than normal weather. We've just been blessed by that May rain and some pretty good rains in July. And of course, your local rains, like right along the coast right now, we're in fine shape.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those, and also hindsight's going to be 2020 at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well,
We'll see.
that's drought. Rainstorm, it's in and out. You can quickly assess it. Drought, you can be sneaky getting into it. You can crawl out of it. You can kind of leap out of it in the short term, but is that going to hold? And we don't know that. We
Right.
still don't know that.
Yeah. Got it. All right. So we'll go to our last topic here. Usually for this one, I say hey, what do you think about winter? But I said, let's switch it up this time. Let's look at some of the biggest November snows on record, because there might be one person listening here who's like, I just can't wait for it to snow. I need it to snow now. So let's get them in the mood.
Yeah, well, be
We need a freeze
patient.
first. We need a
Yeah,
freeze
be
first
patient
before.
along. Well, you don't necessarily need a freeze first,
I
but
guess that's true. That's true. But
be patient along the coast. I think this sums it up pretty well. At Atlantic City Airport, which isn't exactly hugging the coast,
no,
in Pomona, there's only been 7 Novembers since 1958 where more than a tenth of an inch of snow fell during during the whole month.
right.
The snowiest was 7.8 inches of snow fell on November 30th, 1967.
Mm, I
Uh,
wasn't alive.
that's the biggest one. I was plenty alive.
You were just
Um,
out of the womb.
there was not quite. There was a a Thanksgiving Day snow, early Thanksgiving morning on 1989 when AC Airport had 6 inches. And then the most recent was 2.5 inches on the 7th of November, 2012. And guess
Mm,
what happened 2 weeks before that?
uh,
As
yeah,
it
I know that
was,
one.
as we know, that was Sandy. That was that post Sandy storm, where actually from that storm, Freehold had 13 inches, Manalapan 11, Cape May only had a trace. But you
Bubble.
go up the coast, Point Pleasant, 5.2. That was quite an event. The one in 1967 did drop 8.2 inches at Mays Landing, and down even in Belle Plaine in Cumberland had
Yeah,
6.8. So that got a little further south. So, we've had three, I'd say, notable storms right hugging the coast
right.
over the last 60, 70 years in
Yeah,
November. Again, it's that warmer water. You just turn the wind off that water and your snow turns to rain.
yeah. And I think is it fair to say we're seeing our first snow of the year later in the season as well?
That's a tough one, with these one and done events. I mean, look at the year before Sandy, we had the late October, the October 29th storm
Yeah, yeah,
that just the biggest snow on record up in the Highlands up until a December 10th storm in 1960. There had never been a bigger storm in November than the 18 inches that fell in the Highlands on October 29th
yeah.
in
Crazy.
20 11, blah, blah, blah,
2011,
2011,
2011.
2011,
That was the
2011.
infamous
Yeah.
Rutgers football snow. While it was snow, it was rain, then snow, then mix, and it was going back, and it
Yep.
eventually turned to all snow. And they lost to West Virginia, and that
We
was
don't
when
want to talk
Eric
about
LeGrand.
that.
They had the Sports Illustrated cover of him walking out is in the snow.
Yeah.
I was there. I was very cold and wet.
Yeah, that was
I've learned
amazing.
better. I've learned more not to do that.
Now, next one we can talk December event, and we can look back to December 26, 2010,
Ah,
when that was coastal of all time in my bet, coastal New Jersey storm.
that is my all-time favorite snowstorm that I've been
Yeah.
around for. The
So
Boxing
there's
Day
our
blizzard.
tease. There's our tease,
Yes.
folks, for next
All right,
month.
good. You gave me a topic for next month. All right. So we are going to wrap it up here for this month's edition of the monthly weather roundup. Remember, you can find this around the beginning or at the end of every month as we're flipping the calendar here. We also have tidal flooding talk on Tuesdays, and you can check out all of my daily weather videos right here, wherever you're listening. So for New Jersey State Climatologist Dr. Dave Robinson, I'm Joe Martucci. Happy Thanksgiving to you. And we'll be back with you going into December. Take care, everybody.